These Florida Republicans refuse to end property taxes, even though DeSantis built a plan to do it. And it actually makes sense. But now, the same people who claim they're pro-taxpayer are quietly working to kill the whole thing. And they're hoping you won't notice how they're doing it. In this video, I'll show you how they're rigging the ballot so nothing passes, why these Republicans are turning on DeSantis, and the plan that's already in place that could eliminate property taxes tomorrow. Let's jump in. Here's what's really going on.
Your personal home, you shouldn't rent it from the government. You should own it. And, you're paying taxes for 50 years, but even for young families, it's become very difficult across this country to make ends meet. Wouldn't it be great if they were able to have home ownership without having the burden of property tax that? So that's coming to a ballot near you in November of 2026, and we need 60% of Florida voters to do it. And I think it's going to be very popular, but it's also something that's not an easy bar to reach when you have an election like that.
So in 2026, Florida voters are going to be asked whether they want to eliminate property taxes. Sounds simple, right? It should be. But instead of putting one clear plan on the ballot, politicians are stuffing 8 different proposals into it. Not 1, not 2, 8. Now, here's the trick. In Florida, for a constitutional amendment to pass, it needs 60% of the vote. That's a high bar. So what happens when you put 8 different versions of the same idea in front of voters? You split the vote. No single option gets 60%, which means none of them pass. It's not reform, it's sabotage. These politicians are saying, we're giving people a choice, but it's not a real choice, it's a setup. They know exactly what they're doing. They can claim they supported reform without ever letting any of it happen. That's the move. And now, they're already lining up the excuses. Republican House Speaker Daniel Perez says the House doesn't need to just present one plan. They should let the voters pick. Here's what he said. If we have faith in the voters to elect us, we should not be afraid to let them be a part of the conversation about the taxes they pay. It sounds good, but it's designed to fail. They're also trying to sell it by saying all these proposals ban local governments from cutting law enforcement spending, which is a great thing. But guess what? That's already the law. Local governments can't cut police budgets without state approval. So this isn't new, it's just a talking point they're going to use to make it sound like they're doing something. And here's what another Republican, Juan C. Porras from Miami, had to say. We're filing a constitutional amendment to appear on the 2026 ballot that will exempt Floridians 65 and older from non-school property taxes. It's time to give back to those who built our communities. The problem is, that doesn't help all homeowners, and it still doesn't eliminate property taxes completely because it leaves in property taxes for schools. Actually, all 8 of these proposals leave property taxes in place to fund schools. So they're not eliminating anything. I'm not going to go through all 8 proposals here because they're super boring and they're probably going to change anyway. But I broke it all down for my newsletter subscribers, and if you want the full breakdown, hit the link in the description and you can check it out. I don't have kids, and I've been paying school property taxes for 28 years. Is it fair that I should keep paying for the rest of my life? And under Juan Porras' plan, I wouldn't see any property tax relief for another 15 years. That's crazy. And @Richard Galaxia on X called it out. Only 5 million Floridians are over 65 years old. What about the 18 million Floridians who are under 65 years old? This isn't what the governor's called for. Excellent point, Richard. So now the truth's out. These politicians aren't trying to fix property taxes. They're trying to confuse voters just enough so nothing passes, while pretending they did their job. But this story gets much worse. This isn't the typical red versus blue drama. The Democrats are against eliminating property taxes, no shock there, but it's the Republican lawmakers, the majority party, who are actually the ones blocking full elimination. You'd think they'd be backing DeSantis, the guy who won Florida in a landslide and actually proposed this plan in the first place. He cut the state's debt in half, stacked up $15 billion in reserves. He's the best governor in the country and will more than likely be the president one day. But now, his own party's fighting against him. They won't support the bill, they won't prioritize it, and they definitely don't want it on the ballot as one clean, easy to understand proposal. And here's why DeSantis wants to see it on the ballot.
They have a home that they bought for $250,000 10 years ago. Now they're being told it's worth $750,000, and they have to pay more in tax every year. Even if they don't even raise the millage rate, just the valuation change as an unrealized gain is pinching people. You have senior citizens that have to sell home because they don't have the ability to keep paying the taxes on the house.
But people still want to come up with excuses why we can't cut taxes. Like, what about the counties that don't get big tourist money? They're going to get hit hardest by eliminating property taxes, right? Wrong.
I can take all 32 fiscally constrained counties. I could fund 100% of tax revenue that would be derived from a homestead, Florida residence, property taxes. And it's like budget dust for us. I mean, we got a massive surplus, so we can do that and we will do that. So don't let anybody in the rural counties act like you're not going to be able to do, because I can just do it without even worrying. I'm not going to let that keep us from doing property tax relief. So if I have to do appropriation, I'm going to support doing an appropriation. I mean, it's just that simple.
He's not taking a guess at how this could happen. He's got a plan all laid out. So a few months ago, the Florida House put together a committee to study property taxes called the House Select Committee on Property Tax Reform. That's where all 8 of these property tax proposals are currently sitting. The committee's job? To figure out if Florida should eliminate property taxes on homestead properties, which is your primary home, which is awesome. I was really excited to hear that they put this committee together because it would be a massive win for Floridians. And it finally felt like politicians were taking this seriously until I saw this from Republican State Rep Toby Overdorf of Stewart, who's the co-chair of the committee.
There are 2 things that we feel are not realistic. One of those is a refund check that would come from the general fund back to the taxpayers of Florida. We feel it's really a Band-Aid.
DeSantis proposed this last year to give immediate relief to homeowners until the legislature could lock in something permanent. It would have come out of the $15 billion budget surplus, but these politicians shot him down, and we suffered.
The second is a full revocation of property taxes. We don't see that as fiscally responsible.
So now the guy who's going to help decide whether a real property tax elimination bill passes is already saying he won't agree to it. That's sad. Here's another person who sits on that committee, Diane Hart. I did a whole video about her, so I'm not going to go deep here. I'll link that video in the description below. Diane's the state house rep for Tampa in Hillsborough County, and according to Hillsborough County's 2026 budget, page 361, her nonprofit that she's CEO of, the East Tampa Business Civic Association, received $99,999 in 2024. $100,000 in 2025, and is already lined up to get another $100,000 for the next 2 years. So right now, according to her 2024 Form 6, which self-reports her income, she's personally profiting about $115,000 a year from property taxes through her nonprofit. And unfortunately, it's all completely legal, but it raises the obvious question. How serious could she actually be about cutting property taxes? Because if she votes to eliminate them, Hillsborough County's not going to have the same pile of strip club money to throw around on pet projects, and that means Diane's easy cash gets cut. Why would she vote to take a $100,000 pay cut? She probably won't. So there's 2 people on the committee who probably aren't going to vote through a complete property tax elimination bill. And keep this in mind, when DeSantis talks about eliminating property taxes, he's only talking about homesteaded homes. Cities and counties would still collect property taxes on commercial buildings, apartment complexes, Airbnbs, rental houses, and snowbird second homes, just not on the house you actually live in. So counties and cities would still be pulling in a massive chunk of money. But DeSantis wanted to prove to these counties that the problem isn't income, it's spending. A lot of their budgets have ballooned over the past 5 years because home values shot up, which means they've been raking in a ton more money from property taxes. So what did they do? They spent more of your property tax money on dumb projects that nobody wants, like they're making it rain at the club. DeSantis wanted to show that if they cut even a fraction of this crazy spending, they could afford to eliminate property taxes altogether. So we brought in CFO Blaise Ingoglia to run the Florida Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, and audit every county and city in the state for waste, fraud, and abuse. And man, he found a ton of it. Here's a few of the crazy things he found so far. In St. Petersburg, which happens to be my city, damn it, they're spending $307,000 on a climate action plan to push Green New Deal initiatives. What? In Orlando, they spent $460,000 since 2020 just to count trees as part of the city's tree inventory. In Hillsborough County, they dropped $950,000 on a county employee vehicle allowance. Must be nice to work there. And in Jacksonville, $7.5 million for a 1-mile sidewalk, nearly 8 times the average estimate. Let me put that one into perspective. If each sidewalk square is 5 feet long, there are 1,056 of them in a mile. That means they spent about $7,102 per sidewalk square for one slab of concrete. That's insane. Now, Blaze and Florida Doge have already found over $1 billion in wasteful spending, and that's just from auditing a handful of counties. They're proven that we can eliminate property taxes and still fund everything that matters. Schools, fire departments, roads, police. This works, but for some reason, these Republicans still aren't getting on board. Why? Remember, Florida Republicans control just about everything. The governor's office, the House, the Senate, the Attorney General, and right now, there's about 1.4 million more registered Republican voters in Florida than Democrats. So Republicans have the power, and it should be easy to get this done. But for some reason, these same Republicans keep voting like Democrats and blocking the common sense reform Governor DeSantis is trying to pass for Florida taxpayers. So why are they doing it? Here's why. Property taxes give local governments a steady stream of cash that grows every time home values go up. It's easy money. And a lot of these politicians, even Republicans, don't want to touch it. They don't want to audit bloated budgets, cut waste, or lose control over how that money gets handed out. Some of it goes to nonprofits tied to their friends, useless programs, or departments that should have been cleaned up years ago. If that tax money goes away, they actually have to make hard decisions. They don't want to do that. And here's what they won't say out loud. They're afraid it'll cost them their next election. If they cut off that revenue, all the people who benefit from it, county commissioners, school boards, city mayors, are going to push back hard. Those are the people they depend on for endorsements and local support. They're not worried about you. They're worried about keeping their political careers alive. So yeah, they're protecting the system, but let's be real. They're just protecting themselves. And they all know DeSantis can't run again in 2026, so they're not worried about going up against him. That's exactly why we need the next governor to fight for the same things that made Florida great. Not someone who's gonna roll over like the rest of these Republicans and let everything DeSantis has done fall apart. And a lot of these Republicans have already thrown in their support for Byron Donalds, who's running for governor in 2026. But let's see what he has to say about eliminating property taxes. According to the Florida Phoenix, they asked Byron Donalds if he'd support a 2026 ballot proposal to eliminate or seriously cut property taxes, and if it could be written in plain English without all the legal garbage so people actually know what they're voting for. Here's what he said. Would I love to eliminate property taxes? Yes. However, if we eliminate property taxes in the state of Florida, we'd have to double the sales tax, and that would lead to a decrease in tourism from working people and thus isn't a real option. So he's a no on eliminating property taxes. Governor DeSantis saw the same report Byron was talking about, the one from the left-leaning Florida Policy Institute, and he called it out. He said, I'm pretty sure the legislature would not raise the sales tax, and I'm quite certain I'd veto any increase. This is a bogus report, and it is. DeSantis and Doge have already shown us cutting the BS spending solves all the problems. And I don't like the fact that Byron hasn't even been elected yet, and he's already thrown in the towel and given up on eliminating property taxes. That's not being a leader, that's falling in line. That's why we need Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins to jump in and run for governor in 2026. He's a Green Beret who lost his leg in combat and then re-qualified for the Green Berets after the injury. This guy's a beast. Check it out. Now, Governor DeSantis hasn't officially backed anybody yet for 2026, but let's be real. When Jay jumps in, you better believe DeSantis is going to support him, and we should too. If you want someone who's going to keep fighting for our freedoms and actually follow through on eliminating property taxes, this is the guy. DeSantis laid out the plan. Florida's debt is down 50%. We got $15 billion in the bank. The numbers work. Blaze is finding all the wasteful spending, and Jay Collins is backing this plan 100%. He's calling out the waste and standing up for homeowners. That's who we need, not the ones pretending to care while doing everything they can to protect their next election. Florida's got a real shot to be the first state to eliminate property taxes for homeowners and still keep funding schools, cops, fire, and roads. The plan works. The money's there. The only thing in the way, politicians who are fighting it on purpose. So here's what you do. First, call your state rep. I'll drop the link below. Tell them you want one thing, a joint resolution that puts a single, Clear question on the ballot. Should we eliminate property taxes on homesteaded homes? That's it. Second, don't vote for anybody who's not all in on eliminating property taxes. If your local rep's pushing back on DeSantis or playing games with this, don't vote for them, period. Replace them with someone who's actually going to fight for you. These politicians need to be primaried by Republicans who are actually going to do the will of the people. And even though DeSantis is fighting like hell for Florida, here's one fight he might actually lose. Click here to learn why this is coming and not even DeSantis can stop it. It's already rolling out in other countries. It tracks, it controls, and it punishes. And now it's heading straight for us. Click here and I'll see you there.